we're here at RSA Conference 2024 in Moscone West, Broadcast Alley. I'm Jeff Mann, co-host of Paul's Security Weekly, and I'm super excited for this next conversation. I'd like to introduce Lynn Marks. She's a senior product manager at a company called Imperva, and for I think the first time ever, PCI is actually the topic for one of these interviews. So Lynn, welcome to RSA.
Thank you very much. I'm very excited to be here.
Tell us a little bit about yourself, Lynn.
Yeah, so I've been in cybersecurity for around 8 years.
Okay.
And my focus points now are both client-side attacks, so protecting against mage card attacks, as well as from bot attacks.
Okay.
So really fun areas where you're seeing a lot of development in. And Imperva, where I work, they really protect companies' data and all paths to it, both protecting from the application side and from the data side as well.
Great. So let's jump into it. Client-side attacks. What's that?
So there are lots of different types of client-side attacks, but specifically what we focus on preventing are called mage card attacks.
Okay.
So as more and more code and functionality is being added to the client side, there is more risk that attackers might want to leverage the client side in order to steal that really sensitive and valuable data.
Right.
So what they've been doing is they either inject malicious JavaScript or they compromise existing JavaScript that's already in the client side in order to be able to tell the data that when the customer enters in their credit card information, let's say into the payment form, it not only sends it to the correct server where it's supposed to go, but it also sends it to the attacker's server as well. So it's literally data theft where it's one record at a time as the consumers continue to use the applications.
Right. Yeah, and that's becoming a thing now, isn't it?
Definitely. We've definitely seen a larger rise in the last 5 years. We're definitely seeing more publications talking about it, especially as more privacy compliance frameworks are being delivered by different countries and states.
Right.
And now I'm sure that we'll hear even more about it with PCI adding some new requirements that are specifically related to preventing script skimming.
Right. So to catch everybody up, PCI, the data security standard involved with credit card processing, payment card processing, which has actually been around for 20 years now, came out with a new version of the standard, version 4, which became effective a month ago. And there are 2 new requirements in the standard that are specifically related to client-side scripts that are found in just about every web browser these days. Client-side scripts are there to speed up the process, speed up the user experience, and it's kind of a big deal for PCI. One of the things that I've noticed is the fact that there's actually vendors that actually want to talk about PCI and have something that's focused for meeting an actual PCI requirement, which I've been doing this a long time, is relatively rare. So why did Imperva try to decide to go after this? Why did they decide to focus it? How is it that you're interested in PCI? I kind of want to know.
Well, so we originally wanted to look at the client-side attacks just from a security perspective.
Okay.
We launched client-side protection, which is our product to help defend against this back in 2020, because we saw that there was a trend of more and more attacks. And we wanted to provide our customers with a way to prevent mage card attacks. With really the basic thing that you need to do is get rid of the client-side blind spot,
Right.
which is so many security practitioners don't even know what are the different resources that are executing on their client side.
Right.
So really the first thing you need to do is bring them that visibility that not only gives it to them like a one-time aggregated list, but you also need to be able to keep on updating it as the client side changes.
Right.
And then once PCI was coming up with the new version, we realized, we now can provide our customers with value not only from the security perspective, but also help them from the compliance side as well.
Right. So the 2 new requirements in PCI, because they're new requirements, clients have a grace period of 1 year to implement whatever they can do. And I'm a qualified security assessor by day, so I'm a QSA. And when we first started noticing these new requirements, the team that I work with, we started scratching our heads saying, what are we going to recommend to our clients? Because we're not aware of anybody that's really focused on this. I started going out, talking to a lot of vendors, RSA, Black Hat, a lot of talk about protecting websites, secure web development, all the usual stuff in PCI. But then I asked, what are you guys doing on the client side? And I got a lot of blank stares, frankly. So it's really exciting that you guys are doing it. I don't know if we need to bore the audience with the details of the numbers of the requirement, but what the heck. One of the requirements is 6.4.3.
Yes.
What are you guys exactly doing? What is that requirement, and what are you guys doing exactly to meet that? And especially for clients, you should be listening if you're doing PCI. What is how do they need to get in touch with Imperva to make sure that they're ready once this rule becomes effective?
Yes. So 643 is all about making sure that customers actually have an aggregated list of everything that's executing on the client side. So it's telling them that they need to authorize all of the scripts. So they, have to manually show that they've approved each one of them.
Right.
They have to have a written justification, and they have to make sure that there's integrity in the detection for the payment page.
Gotcha.
So, of course, with all the visibility that our tool was already able to provide, it was a very easy switch for us to just show, let's say, a couple pieces of information and be able to provide our customers with that ability to get the visibility, the authorizing, and understand if the scripts are changing or not.
Okay, great. And then the second requirement, 11.6.1, I'll let you explain it.
Yeah, so that's all about having a tamper-proof and detection-proof mechanism that says that you need to be alerted about different types of resources that are executing on the client side, and also make sure that you're alerted and making these changes at least every 7 days, or as often as your organization says is accurate for your own team.
Right.
So really what organizations need to make sure that they do is that they have a tool that, of course, cannot be tampered with, cannot be removed by attackers trying to remove it, and make sure that they have a robust alerting system in place so that they can know when new things, new resources, new scripts are being added, as well as new headers, which are specifically called out,
Right.
and then be able to go and authorize them so that when they do have their PCI audit, they'll be able to say, hey, you can see that everything has already been authorized. There's nothing else that is still waiting to be reviewed.
Okay. So hopefully this is not a curveball question for you, but I'm curious what you guys are seeing from your perspective. I have lots of clients that over the years have very painfully tried to, let's say, meet PCI by outsourcing. First it was the payment page, then it was the web hosting. Very often now it's the web development itself. It's all moved over to third parties, and the merchants think that they're good. I'm sure you're seeing that in some respect. What's the sweet spot for Imperva in terms of either talking to the merchants or the hosting providers or the web development providers, the payment pages? Where are you guys seeing the most traction and the best place to put Imperva?
Well, I actually think that there's a misconception where customers believe that if they do offload their payment service provider to third party, they believe that they don't need to comply with these specific requirements. But that is actually, a misconception, and you do actually still need to comply with these two requirements that we just mentioned, because there might be, let's say, other scripts or other types of resources that are living on your payment page that could be trying to interact with maybe the iframe that lives in there.
Right.
So I would say that every organization that has a payment page, whether you're developing your own payment processing or you're using someone from third party, you should definitely still acquaint yourself with these new PCI requirements and make sure that during your next audit prep, you are having these resources looked at and starting to authorize all of these scripts.
Great. One other question I have, we've focused on the new things that Imperva can do for you, but before that came along, what does Imperva do for you if you're a merchant or if you're somebody that has an e-commerce site?
Yeah, so I mean, Imperva, we provide a lot of really great value, especially for e-commerce sites. All the way from the WAF, DDoS protection if you're having a big on sale, a waiting room for those big on sales, and then of course for me, one of my favorite products because I'm biased, the bot protection that we have, which is able to protect not only the customers and applications that come to us, but also the real end users that are actually trying to interact with the websites, and we're able to provide them with a safe and more fair internet experience. So it's, I believe it's a company that's really doing a lot of good, protecting companies and the end users themselves.
That sounds great. And you mentioned WAF, which it's worth mentioning that WAF up until version 4.0 was sort of a either or optional protection for websites. You could either do that or do some sort of security testing. But even WAFs are now going to be required after this 1-year grace period. So it's not really a new requirement, but it's certainly a tweaked requirement, which I'm sure Imperva is aware of. Are these things all component parts that you sort of like a la carte buy into, or you get Imperva and you get all of it?
So for customers that need different features or to solve different problems, we have different bundles, so you can either buy that or you can buy the most basic WAF and then add on add-ons if you don't want to buy an entire bundle. So it's really flexible for whatever problems our customers are trying to solve.
Super. We've got just a few minutes left. I'll sort of open the floor to you if there's any other things that you want to cover, make sure that you're emphasizing, now's your chance.
Yeah, I mean, for everyone out there who's actually building the websites or protecting the websites, just really make sure that you are pinpointing where are these payment sites or where else is sensitive data being entered. Because we've been talking about this from the PCI perspective, but of course we also want to prevent general data theft because it could be your password information that you don't want to have go out. So make sure that you figure out where the sensitive forms, where customers are working there, really get that visibility and that consistent visibility, and start having a better understanding of what are the resources that are supposed to be there and not, because if you don't know what you're supposed to protect, you can't properly secure it.
I'm a little taken aback that you said there's something other than PCI, but that's just because of my bias, having done PCI for 20 years. Really exciting talking to you today, really excited to get to hear about Imperva. Like I said, I'm excited that there's companies that are actually finally paying attention to the PCI requirements. Not that you weren't before, but walk the floor at RSA and mention PCI, and most people are like, flip to the page, compliance, here's what I'm supposed to say about
Or they
compliance.
might fall asleep.
Or that too, or they actually turn and run away. But that was our PCI talk for today. Lynn, thank you so much for joining us and having a conversation. If you want to learn more about Imperva and what they do to help you protect websites, protect sensitive information, especially PCI data, go to securityweekly.com/Imperva, RSAC. I want to thank you again. Enjoy the rest of your show. Enjoy the beautiful day out here. And we'll be back shortly with the next interview.
Thank you.